This is Kingston Live. Over the last 2 years, we've heard from some of the many artists who were impacted by the pandemic. Some were inspired, some took the time to rest, and some reinvented themselves within the new paradigm. But none had a story quite like our guest today. What started as the pandemic project of a 16-year-old and her father grew into a complete album. Luella is the moniker of singer-songwriter Liv Whitfield. But Luella is also a collaboration between Liv and her father Zane Whitfield, the man behind North of Princess Recording Studio. Though she had written music before, the quiet of the pandemic provided the opportunity to spend time experimenting on a specific song. And though that song didn't make it onto the new record, it did lay out the framework for how the two would collaborate going forward. This past November, the pair dropped Luna, a 7-track record that combines layers of dreamy textures and lush instrumentation with Liv's sincere and beautifully candid lyrics.
The audience in Kingston is incredibly supportive.
We're all sort of doing it together.
There's something in every artist that comes out of Kingston that feels like it's an outlier.
It is a strange and wild and wonderful place.
Hello, this is the Kingston Live podcast. I'm John.
I'm Ange.
We have with us no stranger to the Kingston music scene, Zane Whitfield.
Hi.
And a relative newcomer to the Kingston music scene, his daughter, Liv Whitfield.
Hi.
How are you?
Also known as Luella.
Yes, I'm good. How are you?
Amazing. I love Luella. We're going to talk in a little bit about where that came from.
Mm-hmm.
But this morning, I was over at Miss Emily, another Kingston artist.
Yeah.
She's off on tour in Europe, so I've been bunny sitting. And we were FaceTiming this morning. And I said, girl, I got to go. I got an interview. And she said, oh, who is it with? And I told her, and she said, she is Kingston's next big thing. She also said to say hi, but a lot of faith in you and your music. And John saw you recently. I've been listening on Spotify. I need to see you live.
Yeah.
Very exciting. So tell us a little bit about, I don't know what you would describe your music style as. It's obviously like pop music, but there's more to it than that.
Yeah, I always find I struggle with that question because I feel like it does definitely fall under pop, like sort of alternative pop. I feel like kind of spacey. There's like some soul elements that my dad and I try to incorporate as well. Is there anything you would add on that?
I kind of always go with bedroom synth pop.
Yeah, I think it totally falls underneath
like
that.
Soul, yeah.
Sometimes it's hard to peg it down because you don't want to put yourself in a box like that either, right?
Sure.
And it's your own individual thing, which I really feel like when I hear it, I don't go, oh, that sounds like this or that. Like, to me, it's a very definite style. It is yours.
Oh, well, that's nice to hear. That's definitely something we worked on, trying to develop whatever my style or sound is. So I'm glad that you said that and you think that. So
that's cool. I mean, you're 18 years old, right? Mm-hmm. So to have that and so young, that's a cool thing.
Yeah, and it's exciting to kind of like now I feel more comfortable for jumping into new projects. We kind of know somewhat what we're doing or what we're looking for, but I'm also excited to keep experimenting and broadening and changing, altering the sound and just making it even more exact. So yeah, I'm excited for that for sure.
With the comment from Miss Emily, that's something that's been on my mind too, is there's been a surprising amount of, I feel momentum behind what you're doing.
Yeah.
Is that surprising to you?
Honestly, a little bit. I never really when we made the
Because there were a lot of people at the Broom Factory.
Yeah. Well, when we made the album, I didn't really know how we were going to put it out into what scale. And it slowly just started to build. I remember my dad mentioned oh, well, we should have an album release concert for it. And I was like, okay, that sounds like, I was just thinking like a small room with like maybe like 40 people, something intimate. And it slowly got built into something. We had it at the Broom Factory and we sold out of the first show. So we got to add a second one, which was just insane. I know. I like could not have imagined having like more than 100 people. So yeah, that was like absolutely surreal for sure.
And it was a great show too. That was a great night of music.
Thank you. Yeah.
Oh yeah, you came
amazing.
on the Saturday night?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It felt amazing to finally be able to share with people because I feel like so much I've been like talking to my friends about how I do music and I've played them some stuff and I've canceled on so many plans because my dad and I are like in the studio making music and they're like, okay, whatever. So it was great to finally actually like share like what I've been putting so much work into. And it was like even more amazing that there were people that I like didn't know at all that like came out, bought tickets just because they were interested. It was really nice to share that with them as well.
Something that I have to say about that show, just for me personally, it was neat being there, and because I saw your dad on stage back in the day, like
Right.
20 years ago. So to see him on stage with his daughter, and Dylan was there too, which was nice. It was
Yes,
just, it was
love
a
Dylan.
neat thing, yeah, just to see that.
No, it's so fun.
It's a family affair
Yeah,
with
exactly.
Dylan as well too, because Dylan's like a member of our family in some ways because he's worked in the studio with me like on every project for the past 7 or 8 years or something like that. So yeah.
Yeah, that was super fun. And it was like pretty easy to kind of like we already knew each other. So like practicing and everything felt like really like natural. And if like Dylan wanted to like try something new, like it felt like it just felt so easy and like comfortable in that like setting. So, and like to be able to like wrap it up together, it was like definitely a special moment for the three of us. It's so much fun working with that group for sure.
Must have been interesting having a lot of the years where you were creating this happen during a pandemic.
Yeah.
Right? How do you think that, like, did that have an effect on you? I mean, obviously it did. You wouldn't know what it was like without having one. But I'm just thinking, like, normally people get out and they start playing and they do things, and everything had to change during the pandemic. Do you think that was like a positive or a negative or maybe a bit of both?
I mean, yeah, it's so funny. Whenever people ask me about the pandemic, I still feel like I'm like 16. Like, I feel like I haven't, like, I still feel the age that I was when it started. Honestly, I feel like it was a positive. I mean, I had only played one show before, like, ever, and it was just like a coffee house. So, like, it was like I played 2 songs, and so it wasn't even like really like a real performance as Luella. But I think to have like the pandemic, and my dad and I, we kept like just saying to each other, well, we have all the time in the world, because that's kind of how it felt. We didn't know when this would end. And so we really jumped on that, and we would spend hours and hours and weeks and months on one song. Just like, how long do you think we spent on like the first song, like Venus? Like,
Oh yeah, well that was just trying to figure out your sound, and that was a big part of it. Is Liv would, I've heard her writing these songs, but it like just in the house with the acoustic guitar, the piano, and stuff like that. But a big part of it for me was like, when you talk about defining her sound or the sound, it's just like, when a singer-songwriter plays a song on like an acoustic instrument, it's easy to say, oh yeah, like I'm kind of like folk, or, you just, because you're playing on an acoustic instrument and you're just, a songwriter.
Yeah.
And so that's what's so fun about recording and getting this stuff down and experimenting with creating a whole atmosphere around an artist. So yeah. I felt like I went off in a tangent there.
But
No, I love it.
I felt very fortunate to be able to, because not like before that, already I'm very fortunate to have the studio and my dad and everything, and to have like grown up around that. And then to have that outlet during the pandemic, it was, and all the time, I feel like it was like the best case scenario. Like, I don't know.
I wish I had pandemicked with you guys.
I know. I feel
Something
so
happens
lucky.
again.
it wasn't all glam though. I mean,
there were some rough bits, that's for sure.
Yeah.
But like in the end, there definitely was a silver lining to that, and just being able to like fully delve in and like experiment and just like, again, have all the time in the world to figure that out. Like I never like felt any like pressure to put it out. Like our original thing, like idea was just like to have a creative outlet and just do something instead of sitting binging Netflix. So, and then it just slowly developed into, well, we have all these songs, we might as well put them out and share them with the world. So I feel very fortunate for it, and I wouldn't trade anything for like the experience and what we got out of it for sure.
It's been funny with the podcast because we started it in 2019. So we went about a year pandemic free. And then, of course, COVID hit. And so we've been about 3/4 of the life of this podcast has been during a pandemic, which is crazy. Crazy that we still had people to talk to, and we had no shortage of people to talk to at all. Yeah. I think my goal is to get through a podcast without talking about COVID, but I don't think that's going to happen for a very long time at this point. We're still talking about it. I think it's going to affect us for quite some time. Sure. And I think this is actually our 50th podcast, which is kind of neat. But yeah, I've been asking people, like, do you feel you were better off with or without the pandemic musically? And it sounds like you definitely benefited from this.
Yeah. I mean, we kind of like, it was like a slow process for like making this album. And so there were parts that it was kind of like dragged on where we didn't really.
Well, I also feel too, like it's like I've been working in my studio for, 14 years or something like that. And I have not spent any time in there really to work on my own stuff or passion projects like this sort of thing. Like, and I'm not sure we would have necessarily found the same sort of time and the same concentrated, effort to like actually turn these songs into something. And, because I'm busy and often like part of the reason why I don't spend a lot of time working on my own stuff is like when you're, done working on everybody else's stuff, it feels like, you want to take a break from it a little bit. It's like the story of the mechanic with the broken down car, or the carpenter with a half finished house or whatever. So that to me is why, it was definitely a blessing that way. And just the connection that Liv and I got, over that period.
Yeah, exactly. And I feel like we kind of like waited to put it out until things were more open again and we could play a show. So I think like the timing, like we did stretch it out. There was a period where we didn't really do much music, like the album. We were just kind of sitting on the album, but it was like still like shows, like live shows weren't really happening. So we just kind of like waited it out. And I think like when we put it out was like pretty good timing considering we were able to have 100 people like in a venue, and that was like nice, so we could share that and not have like masks were optional, but like everyone could just like be together. So
much of this album was recorded when Liv was like 16 and 17, so it's
now you get to go out there and play it. Some shows coming up on the 13th and 14th of January here in Kingston and Ottawa.
So on the 13th it's in Ottawa. Playing at Club Saw, an opening for Fan Club Wallet and Sorry Snowman. And then we're moving to Kingston, same group, at the Broom Factory on the 14th. Nice. So I'm really pumped for that. I'm excited to play live again and also be like collaborating with like really cool musicians. So
these are KPP lined this up for us and helped us with the promo and for the album release. So they've been really good to work
awesome.
with. Mark really and Moira. Shout out.
I'd like to throw to a track in a moment, but first, before we get off the subject of live performance, I have to make one more comment. I have never seen anyone use a landline telephone as an instrument before.
What did I miss?
So I'll explain this to you, Ange, and for the listener who may not know what I'm talking about, or maybe you guys could describe it better than me, actually. But as an audience member, Liv, you made some sort of comment about somebody calling, and I tried to get a better look at the stage, and she picks up this landline telephone. Was it a rotary phone or was it like a touch tone phone?
That was a rotary phone. That was actually
rotary.
the rotary phone that sat in our house when I was a kid.
That's amazing.
Yes.
Yeah, and then she started singing into it, like off mic into the phone.
Gotcha.
And that was
Okay.
the microphone for part of the song. Yeah, where the heck did that come from?
Yeah, so I have one song called I Want to See Your Face. The original title of the song was always Telephone. Sometimes I catch myself. I'm like scared I'll be like on air and like refer to the songs as their like original names and no one will know what I'm talking about. But yeah, it's basically a song that I wrote about. I wrote it in COVID, basically wanting to be able to have face-to-face interactions. And instead of like, I was sick and tired of social media and texting and all that. So anyways, one of the effects that we use in the song, and we spent so much time trying to find the right phone sound, like to like mix my vocals to like sound like not like bad.
That was a bit of a battle between the two of us.
So much
that.
time on that song, actually. Anyways, part of the song has like a phone effect on it.
Well, it's not a phone effect. So I think what actually ended up happening was we cut the vocals, and I ended up flipping a sample to my iPhone, and I set it on my console and jammed a mic in front of it, and then recorded it back, and that is the actual sound. Like that's the verse vocal sound in that song was just a recording from the iPhone.
I love that.
And it got that sort of effect. So Liv was very critical of a lot of these. Like I often joke, but Liv is like my toughest artist to produce.
Yeah.
She's like,
I love that.
She's ruthless, and she always has been.
Good. You have to be. Good. Keep that up. I like that.
I remember when she was like young, like a young kid she'd come in with her group of friends or whatever to do like karaoke stuff in the studio, and like I literally walk in the door, have not even flipped on the light switch, and she's got the headphones on, tapping the mic, going, I can't hear anything. I can't hear anything. Dad, can you turn this on?
Come on, Dad.
Yeah. And so it's just like the pressure's on like immediately, and her tenacity hasn't really changed too much when she
No.
she's critical.
It was difficult to like find like something that like didn't sound horrible, because like you know, like obviously phone quality isn't the best quality, so we like wanted to sound like authentic but also like not bad.
Like more full.
Yeah.
John, I think we feel like we've talked about this in production, but like a lot of sound effects aren't actually those sound effects.
Right.
You know, it's you do something else to make that sound. So
Oh, like Foley.
Yeah.
Yeah, like leaves crunching is just paper being crushed.
Exactly,
Yeah.
right? If you actually did the lead screen, be like, what is that? But you do something else that
wrong.
makes it actually, yeah. So that's neat.
Yeah. Anyway, so
So so when we were kind of building the show and just, we're trying to do something special with the live performance and just kind of create like a bit of a vibe and an atmosphere, and that's kind of why we're working with backing tracks with this to really give the full album feel and whatnot. But early on, I was thinking, well, it's not original having like a telephone on stage that somebody sings into. I think Whitehorse does it, and I've seen other artists kind of do it. But so I thought it'd be kind of neat to set that on stage. And for those that have been in the studio or, follow North of Princess or whatever, they'll know that my dad has made a lot of my microphones in my studio, a lot of my equipment in my studio and stuff. So it's a bit of a family affair that way. And so I asked Dad if he would mind, making and he'd been working on a telephone microphone anyway, so he just kind of installed that and used the components in our old telephone to make this mic for the live show kind of thing, just as a bit of an effect that was required anyway to kind of have the same sound from the album, and then also as like a little bit of a thing for the show. So
That's so
Nice.
neat.
There was a lot more depth to that question than I anticipated.
yeah.
We're going to listen to a track? Is that what's going to happen?
Yes, I would like to put a song into the podcast. Is there a particular song that we'd...
Should we do I Want to See Your Face? 'Cause
Well,
we've
yeah,
talked
now
about
that
it
we've talked
so
about it,
long.
yeah,
People can
sure.
think about how long it took us to get those vocals right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that was one of the songs too that, like, we finished it. We said, okay, we're done, but I don't know about for you, but for me, I was just like, I still felt like it could have been explored a little bit more. We could have like, you know, but you always look back on your work.
At some point, you
together.
have to stop.
Exactly.
Like, trust
for
me.
sure.
Yeah. I wrote a book
Exactly.
and I read it back and I'm like, oh, but it's like, no, you could do that for 10 years.
You
And
move on.
sometimes you have to stop and move on.
100%.
100%.
Totally. All right, let's listen to that one.
Sorry, I won't pick up. I'm fucking sick of this phone. Pixelated contact only makes me feel more alone. I wanna see your face and the gestures that you make. Connections through a computer all just seem so fake. Your mood confused me. I didn't get the tone you were using. Your eyes would give it away, but they start box just takes it away. Mixed signals and messages only cause me to overthink. And my brain has fallen to pieces, psychoanalyzing. I wanna see your face staying up and out, passed on. 'Cause these days it's the same old talk. No wonder I hate to respond. Your mood confused me. I didn't get the tone you were using. Your eyes would give it away, but this darn old box just takes it confused me. I didn't get the tone you were using. Your eyes would give it away, but this darn old box just takes it
Thank you for listening to Kingston Live. Be sure to subscribe on your platform of choice and follow us on Facebook and Instagram. For more great Kingston music, check out the Kingston Live playlist on Spotify. For show listings, artist info, and all things Kingston music, check out kingstonlive.ca. You can also hear our sister show, Kingston Live On Air, on Amherst Island Radio and CFRC.
I want to talk about your lyrics for a minute because John and I were talking about that before you came. And the fact that your lyrics are very personal.
Yeah.
It's almost like, am I hearing something I shouldn't, but at the same time, relatable.
Yeah.
Yeah. Is that something that, like, how's that process for you with writing the lyrics?
Definitely. I mean, again, I wrote all of these songs when I was like 16 and like just finishing up on my 17th birthday. So I feel like I always like look back on like the lyrics and I'm like, I'm such like an angsty teenager. But yeah, I basically all my songs start out where I like kind of find like a melody on the guitar or the piano, and then I just like I just go at it with the lyrics and just kind of like start with one line and then I just like follow through in like the order of like first verse, second, like first chorus, second verse, second chorus sort of thing. And yeah, a lot of my songs are like quite personal. A lot of them are like I wrote during the pandemic, so they have a lot of themes to do with like being depressed and sad and
Maybe that's why I find it relatable.
yeah. I mean, a lot of people were probably feeling very isolated during that time.
Yeah.
I don't think I was alone.
No.
A lot of songs about not being in love, never being in love. But I like having like the sort of, I know like there are a lot of, for me, it's like a coping mechanism for just like, you know, if something's on my mind, I just like start writing. But then I think a lot of the time, like that vulnerability, like a lot of people can like relate to. So, yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
I said to Ange before you guys came in, I think a sign of good lyrics, and you alluded to this a moment ago, is sometimes there are lyrics that are just feel so personal that you wonder if you're even allowed to listen to them, but at the same time don't make you cringe. So
That's good. That's
when you
good.
get that, I think you're onto something. So good job.
Thank you. I appreciate that for sure.
Is it weird being, I don't want to say out of the pandemic because we're still dealing with it, but you know, people are out or doing things and things are sort of back to quote unquote normal. Is it weird, sort of that transition of creating in isolation and all of a sudden it's out there?
Yeah, I mean, I guess when we were like originally writing the songs, I never really thought about putting them out. It was just sort of about making something and having fun. For example, my one song, Luna, I, for the longest time, was like, we're not putting this song out. It was just such like a personal like song. I had written it right after sort of like a 2-month stint of like not doing any music because I just like didn't have the motivation to do anything, even like being creative. So that song, I was just like, I remember I didn't really share with my dad after I had written like it, and it took me a while to finally like play it for him. And then he was like, this is like good, we should work on this, like I think a lot of people would relate to this. And I was like, no no way. And anyway, somehow he convinced me to like just like do a demo, just like a live run through of the song on piano and like getting some raw vocals. And he was like, yeah, we have to work on this song. We should use this raw vocal take. I don't know if you want to speak to it because you're very adamant on using the. I know.
It's so heavy. It's such a heavy song, and it I don't know. It's a difficult spot being, you know, dad, producer, friend, confidant, and mixing all of these roles, you know. And so, oh man, like when she played me that song, like I cried like crazy, like because it is so heavy and personal. And if you know the backstory of the song, and maybe that's where you could kind of lead into her artist name or whatever. But Luna is, you know, her middle names are Luella Nash, and Luna, she's singing to herself and wanting to get back to her former self and wondering where she is. So she's singing to Luna, and Luna being herself, and it just hits so heavy. So I mean, applause Liv for being brave enough to releasing it. And I think, as I said, like, lots of people related to that. You
Well,
know?
absolutely. It's like, so many times in our life, and I'm in my 40s, I can tell you, lose ourselves and get back, constantly trying to get back to that and like
For
grounded. And that's beautiful to share. So Luella is a middle name?
Yeah. So
Okay.
originally my parents were like, you should make your like artist name Luella Nash. And I was like, I just didn't want to sound too much like a country artist. Like it does sound
The
like
Nashville's at Nashville
I know.
almost.
So we dropped the Nash and just went with Luella. So yeah, it was just sort of an
I feel like
easy-
it goes with the music too. Like the name,
Thank
you know what I
you.
mean? Like, yes.
Yeah, that was a big debate for a while in the family. We're like, is it going to be Olivia, Luella?
Did I hear a music video talk?
Yeah. It's so funny because, again, I didn't want to put out Luna, and then it was the first single we put out. But yeah, we made a really awesome music video for Luna. It's on YouTube, directed and filmed and edited by Dustin Seabrook. We drove to Guelph where he lives and shot it over like a 2-day stint. That was like such like a cool experience, and it looks amazing as well. He's so talented. So yeah, we have that one. I also have my Never Been in Love music video directed by Jay Middaugh, who did Live in Kingston, the movie.
We're big fans of Jay.
Yeah. Oh, he's so great. I'm super pumped because we're actually going to be working on a second music video for the music video initiative with the Kingston Film Festival. So that we'll be working on soon and releasing.
I think it comes out with the Kingston Canadian Film Festival.
Yeah,
that's when it'll
in
be
March.
premiered.
Yeah,
in March. Yeah.
So I'm super excited.
Cool.
He's so great, and
Well, we've known Jay for a long time as well, right?
yeah, his daughter's my best friend. So it's great. Yeah.
Kingston's like that, eh?
This multi-generational thing that's happening. Yeah. I really liked getting back to the Never Been in Love video. I love the super group you were able to assemble for the video. Yeah, because Dylan and Grace in there and Justin and of course the two of you. Yeah.
Yeah, that was kind of like a hectic moment because we like needed to find a band, which wasn't as hard as I thought it would be. Like Dylan was basically
It's harder to get
immediately in.
couples.
It was so hard to get couples. And Emily Fennell was in the video. We called her like the day of.
Yeah.
And we were like, can you be in this?
Killed it.
And
She's been very supportive and very helpful with for
she's been
Liv.
great.
And, yeah.
So nice. So
She
yeah.
loves you. Her face lit up when I mentioned you.
Yeah. But yeah, that was wild. Like a lot of the people that were in that video, we like called on the day of and they like pulled through. So I'm really glad that worked out. And I'm so happy with how the video turned out. And it keeps like going up in views on YouTube. I'm always like surprised. I like look back, we're at like 3.8 or 3.9 right now in December. So we'll see where we are.
I think
when
you're
this
just
comes
an
out.
organic artist, like some people like put something together and try to push. I think yours is just gonna do its own little thing.
Thank you.
Yeah. So what's next for you? What's your plan moving forward? We know what you've been up to, but what's coming up?
Definitely, my dad and I have started already working on new music. I feel like I've been like kind of on pause from like creating new stuff ever since like we finished writing songs for like Luna the album. I haven't done that much like writing. I've done a few things, but we haven't like dove into anything yet. So
Pretty excited about the new stuff.
I'm pumped.
It's gonna hit pretty good. Yeah.
So that's probably what we're doing after this podcast is going back to the studio to
Nice.
work on that. So maybe some singles to start out. It's kind of a little bit ambiguous. Like I'm not really sure what it'll look like, but we're definitely going to be making new music and continuing with that. So yeah,
Well, stay in touch.
Yeah,
And let us know
100%.
what you're up to. Yeah.
we will.
Liv, Zane, thank you so much for coming in and chatting with us today.
Yeah, thanks for
Yeah,
having
it's been
us.
great. Thanks, John.
Good luck with everything.
Yeah.
This has been Kingston Live. We encourage you to rate us on your listening platform of choice and subscribe where possible. For show listings, artist info, and all things Kingston music, check out kingstonlive.ca. Kingston Live was produced in Kingston by Titan Sound, hosted by John Sanfilippo and Ange Stever. Voiceovers by Riley Jabor and John Sanfilippo. Writing and research by Peter Sanfilippo. Executive producer Rob Howard. Kingston Live is a member of the Canadian Live Music Association. We'd love to hear from you. Email us at podcast@kingstonlive.ca.